News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, as Harry and Meghan are celebrated as so-called advocates of healing hours before they tear the royal family apart for Netflix cash, should the palace ungag the so-called Sussex Survivor Squad so they can reveal their truth about allegations of bullying by the Duchess? I'll let loose in my digest next before I get the thoughts of tonight's superstar panel, Dawn Neeson, Adam Brooks and Ashley James. Then I'll throw it over to you. Do you think ultra-privileged Harry and Meghan really deserve an award for fighting oppression? It's laughable, isn't it? I'll deliver your verdict in The Clash at 9:25. There'll be more top royal analysis throughout the night, including from one of the most influential voices in recent American political history, former Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, and the woman who literally wrote the book on Prince Harry, Angela Levin. As Westminster's toughest MP demands answers from the Albanian ambassador over the invasion of British shores.
Can't they visit the country for £28, travel on the plane for £28, come, i.e. on a holiday, and then claim asylum? Why can't they do that?
I don't have this information.
No, you do have this information.
So should there be a cap on how many asylum claims are allowed in the UK? We'll explore in the real world with that man, Lee Anderson, at 9:35. Will Rishi Sunak get tough on the strikes as border force workers become the latest to stage industrial action during this Christmas of chaos?
The union leaders to continue to be unreasonable, then it is my duty to take action to protect the lives and livelihoods of the British public.
And will Labour's unholy alliance with unions be their downfall? That's our big debate at 10. As the deadly Strep A outbreak is linked to lockdown and experts warn our kids could be suffering a, quote, immunity debt. Can we ever forgive COVID hysterics for the suffering they've inflicted, especially on our young? Social media sensation June Slater hits out at the Lockdown Zealots at 9:50. And after the UK approves COVID jabs for babies as young as 6 months, why are our health authorities still obsessed with vaccinating the young? And would you jab your baby against COVID? That's a very important debate at 10:30. We'll have the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages too, and a new Greatest Britain Union jackass before the show is out. This is Dan Wootton tonight. Let's go. My digest, my opinion in just a moment. But before that, the news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Dan, thank you very much. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has given planning permission for a new coal mine in Cumbria. The plan was recommended by the independent planning inspector. It's the first coal mine in the country for 30 years. The government says the coal will be used for the production of steel and not for power generation. But Shadow Climate Secretary Ed Miliband said this was a terrible decision.
Opening a new coal mine marks the death knell for any claims this government has to climate leadership, and it won't provide the sustainable jobs we need. We should be going full pelt for the clean, green jobs of the future. But Rishi Sunak is so weak, being pushed around by his backbenchers, that he just can't deliver.
The Home Office says military personnel and volunteers are being trained to support services, including Border Force, at airports and ports as further strikes are announced. The Public and Commercial Services Union says around 1,000 Border Force workers will walk out over the festive period. Members working at Gatwick, Heathrow, Manchester, Birmingham and Cardiff airports will strike for 8 days from December the 23rd until New Year's Eve in a row over paid jobs and conditions. Minister for Immigration Robert Jenrick says the decision is unjustifiable and will ruin the plans of thousands of families and businesses right across the country. The RMT union says a resolution to the ongoing strikes are further away due to what it calls a late intervention by the government. The comments come amid a wave of strikes across a number of public sectors. Ambulance staff will strike in a dispute over pay and conditions. Nurses, teachers and rail workers are due to take action in the coming weeks. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has accused Mr Sunak of not doing enough to resolve the industrial action.
This morning, his Transport Secretary said that his flagship legislation on strikes, this is what he said this morning, his Transport Secretary, might want to listen to this, is clearly not going to help with the industrial action we're facing. He should stop grandstanding, stop sitting on his hands, get round the table and resolve these issues.
The government has been reasonable. It's accepted the recommendations of an independent pay body, giving pay rises in many cases higher than the private sector. But if the union leaders to continue to be unreasonable, then it is my duty to take action to protect the lives and livelihoods of the British public. And that's why, Mr Speaker, since I became Prime Minister, I have been working for new, tough laws to protect people from this disruption.
Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock has announced he won't stand again at the next general election. In a letter to the Prime Minister, he said he was proud of his 9 years in government, making reference to the UK having the first COVID vaccine in the world. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Dan Wootton tonight.
Stand by for the first explosion of the metaphorical Sussex nuclear bomb aimed right at Buckingham Palace. At 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, Harry and Meghan kick off what I've been warning is their ultimate plan for some time: full-scale destruction of the British monarchy. It started last night in New York when the most pampered victims in world history flew in from Montecito on a carbon-spewing private jet, despite the fact they're preachy climate campaigners, of course. Then they swept into a Robert F. Kennedy Awards event hosted by Alec Baldwin, that Hollywood lefty who shot someone on a film set last year, to accept an award for calling out racism within the royal family. But there's actually no evidence for that, is there? What it does do is trample on the life's work of Harry's late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth the Great. Luckily, the Brits outside the venue knew what this is really about.
Harry, over here. Harry, God bless. What do you think about destroying the royal family? Meghan, you destroyed the royal family.
And actually, so too did the British broadcasters inside, much to Harry's obvious horror, given he was expecting more of the Hollywood treatment.
Harry, do you have a message for your family? Are you harming your family, Harry? Can you get you up here?
Harry, are you putting money before family? Are you putting money before family?
But once he was safely surrounded by woke sycophants, Harry started spreading his usual Californian mumbo-jumbo, claiming they are now going down a, quote, path of optimism and are advocates of healing, before adding, we understand this honour not about the culmination of a life's work, but instead, and in many ways for us, a beginning. That's nothing short of a threat to his father, King Charles, and brother, Prince William, ahead of this Netflix takedown of the monarchy and, predictably, the horrible British media, which is coming tomorrow morning.
It's about hatred. It's about race. It's a dirty game. The pain and suffering of women marrying into this institution, this feeding frenzy.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
I was terrified. I didn't want history to repeat itself. No one knows the full truth.
Well, if Harry really wants the full truth told, then it's essential he lobbies Buckingham Palace to free the staff members who claim they were bullied by Meghan from the gagging orders currently silencing them. Ironic, isn't it, given Meghan claimed it was the Sussexes who were silenced to Oprah? Well, not anymore. One staff member, subject to a confidentiality agreement, told the Times newspaper today the only way to end it for good is for us to be allowed to speak and for the palace to firmly reject their lies. I certainly have chosen to remain silent out of respect for the Crown. But if they keep attacking us and our characters, reputation, etc., we need to feel we are equally supported by the royal family. They are right. Courtiers for King Charles must give these former staff members the assurance they can speak without being taken to court. And further, tonight I'm demanding that Buckingham Palace publish the covered-up results of its inquiry into claims of Meghan's bullying, which her lawyers have always denied. OK then, Meghan, if you've got nothing to be afraid of, there's no reason to hide a thing. Release the report. I reported on Meghan's 2 years within the royal family. I was the first in the world to break the news that the Queen had warned Prince Harry over her behaviour towards courtiers and that Kate was horrified by the way she treated her staff. That was back in November 2018. So I know who I believe. It's time to unleash the Sussex Survivor Squad. To respond now, my superstar panel. Former editor, current columnist at the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. The businessman and activist, Adam Brooks. And the broadcaster, Ashley James. Adam, surely if we are hearing from the Sussexes and Harry says that we are about to learn the full truth from him, then we've also got to hear the full truth from the other side.
100%. Of course we have, because we're getting one side of the story. Now, she's been proven to have lied several times over the last few years, and they're proven lies, or proven exaggerations a lot of the time as well. Now, what's to say that she isn't lying here? The public needs to know the whole story and let the public decide. You know, how can we just take the word of these two? He says it's a dirty game. He's right, but they're playing it. Those two are playing the dirty game. They know they can spread their version of the truth around the world with no comeback. So these gagging orders need to be lifted. I want to hear what the staff say about her. How many of them is there? Now, if there's lots of them that are saying it, I know who I believe. So
yeah, and it's also about what sort of people they are, what sort of roles they hold. I mean, remember, I was speaking to many of these people throughout the time they were in the royal family, and I can vouch for their characters. And you only have to look at their previous employers to know that these are on the whole good people. Dawn Neeson, the problem with Harry saying, "Oh, we're going to hear the full truth from him," is that we actually can't hear the full truth from the other side. King Charles can't speak, Prince William can't speak, Kate can't speak, and all of the staff are under these really draconian gagging orders.
I feel desperately sorry for... Actually, I feel sorry for everybody involved, because I can't quite work out how we've got to where we've got with the relationship with the brothers. And what really upsets me at the moment is the relationship between the cousins. I mean, sort of like George...
Well, there's no relationship.
But there is none, and that's the thing. And those little kids are going to suffer because of that.
Imagine what Diana would have thought about.
Well, exactly. Oh, God, I'm Diana. And suddenly it's like, Diana did love kids, and it's like the fact that they're so splintered now and there's no way back from this. I actually feel sorry for everybody involved in the end. But it must be really hard for William and Kate in particular, because they can't talk out. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, because if they do, they're lowering themselves to our Harry and Meghan standards, and if they don't, people are going, oh, well, you're keeping quiet because there's something to hide. So I do feel very, very sorry for everyone.
I think they need to be more aggressive, Dawn. I mean, look, you have been, as a national newspaper editor, at the heart of these royal scandals for decades and decades now. I feel like this requires a more robust approach from the monarchy, because they have to understand, Dawn, this is unlike anything they've faced, because with Diana, as you know, she wasn't actually trying to bring down the monarchy. What she was trying to do was bring down her husband. But she always was a huge believer in the monarchy. She just wanted the crown to pass from the Queen, the late Queen, to her son, Prince William. She didn't want to bring down the whole institution.
No, I don't believe she did. I think she was definitely doing it to get back at Charles. And with these two, I just do not understand what the reasoning is behind what they're doing. I mean, I've only got a sister, a very small family, but my sister would literally have to murder someone for me to treat her the way that he is treating William.
Me too.
I don't understand that. What has William done that is so bad that Harry feels like he has to behave like this?
He's done nothing, and it says a lot about Harry's character. I mean, by the way, my sister, 3 years younger than me, Ashley. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Ash. I spoke to her earlier. Nothing would come between us. Nothing.
This is what I mean.
And William is a good man. Everyone has faults, but he has done nothing to warrant this treatment from Harry. Now, Ashley, you have been, over the past week, one of the only commentators in Britain who has been very forcefully arguing the case for Harry and Meghan. I know you've had a lot of flack for it, but also a lot of people like your stance too. Why have you been so aggrieved for them over the past week?
Well, not just for the past week, but pretty much since, was it 2018 or 2017, that she kind of came into the royal family.
And we loved her.
At the very beginning, but there were also, I think, 43% of articles published about her were negative. That's a fact.
The country had parties for... I threw a party for the wedding in my
but
pubs.
even when I watched the wedding, there were people talking about the fact she's a divorcee, talking about the fact it wouldn't last. There was lots around there, and I don't think it's exclusive to Meghan, because there has been mistreatment about women joining the firm. That's why Harry's ex didn't want to be part of the firm. Do you remember Waity Katie?
The day of the wedding, though, the day of the wedding, because this has to be, because I think Americans are starting to twist that. Anyone who was in the UK on the day of the wedding will accept it was one of the most joyous days since the 2012 London Olympics.
Fantastic.
The country stopped. We celebrated. There was a sense of genuine excitement. So you cannot tell me we're all racist scumbags who didn't want Meghan in.
I haven't said that, but there was a very stark contrast in the way that Meghan was treated versus the way Kate was treated for doing very similar things. Like, do you remember morning sickness? It was a really glowing article about Kate eating avocados, and then it was like Meghan is responsible for drought and murder and famine for eating avocados.
Pick one or two articles.
There were countless articles. There really were.
There was one article about avocados, and there was one article talking about
Meghan wearing a one-shoulder dress was described as vulgar. Kate wearing a one-shoulder dress, she was described as a true princess, a vision. Meghan Markle cradling her baby bump, it was pride, vanity.
Kate was attacked in many articles.
Kate was tenderly cradling her bump. There was a really stark contrast.
But do you understand, though, that even in this trailer, we're going to obviously see half of the series tomorrow morning, Harry and Meghan accept that they were treated very well in the early days. What the issue was is that then Thomas Markle, her father, was thrown under the bus and began a campaign against his own daughter for very good reasons. I believe he was treated appallingly. And then, I revealed the story in November 2018 about the Queen warning Prince Harry about the way that Meghan was treating stuff. Now, we have huge respect for the Queen. Do you think she just made that up? Do you think she just called Prince Harry up and said, Meghan's treating people terribly, buck up your ideas, for no reason?
Princess Diana spoke very candidly about her life as a royal and the fact that it's very different, family and the institution, which is a business. She said she felt trapped in the royal machine. She said she felt like she was a lamb to the slaughter. She felt like her personality was taken away from her. And as we all know, she died under horrible circumstances. I can completely sympathise with Prince Harry for wanting to protect his family. And he did go to his family, he claims, and they didn't help. He then begged the British media to back off Meghan, and they didn't. So then he took her away.
But
what upsets me is Prince Andrew
I just want to come in there and then I'll let you respond.
more gently and calmly than Meghan.
I thought you might say that, so I actually want to play something to you. So let's have a watch of this, because people have said for a long time, and people have accused me of caring more about Meghan and Harry than I have Prince Andrew. It's completely untrue. I've been speaking about Prince Andrew and the terrible deeds of Prince Andrew actually since 2009. It was the British press who exposed Prince Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It was this coverage from the British press that actually resulted in Prince Andrew losing his royal role. He's out of the family now.
He's living in a
disgraced manner. So can we just please, Ashley,
still has taxpayer security for
£400,000 Prince Andrew than Harry and Meghan.
So £400,000 a year we spend on Prince Andrew's security. He still lives in a £300 million lodge, and the fact that even put in the same breath, but even in a good example,
you put them in the same breath, actually.
After the Queen died, there were 15 negative articles about Meghan Markle in 48 hours on one publication, 12 in another. There were none about Prince Andrew. And I'm looking forward to hearing their side of the story, to be honest, because I do feel I can understand why they're aggrieved. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I'm excited to hear it. But I'm sick of the smear campaign against them.
She has been proven to have lied multiple times over the last
also,
year.
I imagine there are NDAs about lots of different royals.
But she has been proven to have lied about certain situations.
Okay.
Over the last 2 years.
I'm not going to sit here and say that she's perfect, but I also think I'm not telling you to believe everything, but I think they have a right to speak their truth.
One thing I will say, I personally thought that Meghan would bring not only this country and the royal family together, you know, I thought it would improve race relations in this country.
It's done the opposite.
It has done the opposite. Her behaviour has caused racial divides.
And seeing as we're talking about race, there is only actually one person in the royal family who's been proved to be an overt racist, and that is, Prince Harry.
On that note, Dawn Neeson, Adam Brooks, Ashley James, my superstar panel, and they're here all night. But coming up, should there be a cap on how many asylum claims are allowed in the UK? Westminster's toughest talking MP, Lee Anderson, drops by to discuss that after taking the Albanian ambassador to task. He's live at 9:35. But first, continuing with the theme of my digest, do the ultra-privileged Harry and Meghan deserve an award for fighting oppression? Social commentator Lalani Dowding, Vanity Fair royal editor Katie Nicholl, and social commentator Joanna Jaju go head-to-head in the clash. I want to know your thoughts too. Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me using the handle at gbnews. Our poll running there too. The results coming up after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instinct was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
The Real World with Lee Anderson is coming up, but it's time now for The Clash. Last night, Harry and Meghan collected an award from the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Organisation for apparently fighting against racism within the royal family. As with all woke award ceremonies, the red carpet was gridlocked with shameless lovies. However, Prince Harry briefly put the slamming of his own flesh and blood on hold to pretend to still be an everyman. Look.
To be honest with you, Kerry, I actually thought we were just going on date night, so I found it quite weird that we're sharing the room with 1,500 people. I mean, we don't get out much because our kids are so small and young, so this is completely unexpected. But it's nice to share date night with all of you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for bringing me on this very special date night.
You're welcome.
Oh, aren't they sweet? But sticking to a ludicrous script, Meghan vowed to continue Kennedy's legacy by, quote, sweeping down the mightiest walls of oppression. Gosh, she's had it tough, hasn't she? She's had it so tough. Living in a multi-million-pound mansion in Toronto, having everything done for her, then moving to a multi-million-pound apartment within Kensington Palace, having everything done to her, then moving to a multi-million-pound mansion on the Windsor estate, paid for by us and having everything done for her, then moving to a 16-bedroom Montecito mansion in California and having everything done for her. What oppression. But with that in mind, tonight I'm asking, do the ultra-privileged Harry and Meghan deserve an award for fighting oppression? I think you know where I'm at with this, but what do you reckon? Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews. While you're there, go and vote and I'll poll the results shortly. But joining me now for a Royal Rumble, the broadcaster Lilani Dowding, Vanity Fair Royal Editor Katie Nicholl, and social commentator Joanna Zhao. So, Katie Nicholl, let me start with you. You have been covering the royal family for a very long time now. Have you ever seen a moment quite like this, Katie?
No, Dan, I haven't. I mean, I said when we first found out about this award that actually the most gracious thing that they could do with it is to say we're not going to take it, because frankly, there are so many more people on the planet who actually do deserve an award for taking on an oppressive regime, for really taking on institutional racism. And I just don't think that that is what the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have done. I mean, perhaps you could give them an award for presenting us with misinformation, but not this award.
Leilani Dowding, where do you stand on this? Do they deserve an award for facing oppression, battling oppression?
What have they done to fight oppression? All they've done is stoke up division within the country. The only award they deserve is for a perpetual fake victim. Honestly, it's absolutely laughable. Anytime someone goes up against Meghan Markle, she cannot look within herself why people dislike her. She cannot say, what is it about me that everyone has a problem with? She always brings it down to race, and she's actually stoking the fires. For example, I'm from the Philippines. My mum's from the Philippines. When I was going to be born, I'm sure my mum and dad and my grandparents all had a conversation about what shape my eyes would be, what my skin would be like. But of course, she's turned it into racism because that's all she can do. If I'm attacked and trolled online, I don't say it's because my mum's an immigrant. I look at myself and I know I'm quite a mouthy, opinionated biatch, and I can look at that and see that it's within me. But Meghan Markle can't do that. It's all about race all the time, and it's nauseating at this point. And she does not deserve that award at all. She's done nothing but stoke division.
Joanna Jaju, I know you're a big fan of Meghan, and I presume you believe she does deserve this award.
Bet you like that one, Claire.
Meghan and Harry who are getting this award, and I think that this is something that's, you know, shining light on, well, not even shining light, but giving awareness to the institutional aspect of racism. I think over the last couple of years we've talked a lot about Black Lives Matter, and I think one of the problems in the UK is that we can recognise overt racism, but we don't recognise covert racism. And with Meghan and Harry having this platform and being able to kind of show how that has actually been put onto them through the royal family, I think that that's been really important. And the royal family doesn't have a history of innocence when it comes to institutional racism. Even when you look at the past in terms of colonialism and the rest of it, it's still ongoing. So I think that, you know, I know that their documentary as well is going to be touching on the Commonwealth and some of the problems as well within that. And I think that that's important. They're a pillar of hope for a lot of people. And I think that they're great role models who absolutely deserve this award.
Do you really feel they're victims, Joanna? I struggle to get my head around. They seem to want of victimhood.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for a lot of people, especially in this country, it's so hard to kind of recognise exactly where the racism has come from because they just kind of put everything under the rug. But with Meghan, you know, she's shone a light on mental health as well. And, you know, this award has also highlighted that as well and put them on a pedestal for that. And I think that that's important. Meghan has absolutely been a victim from the very beginning, even with the bullying claims, which haven't necessarily been, you know, verified that that has definitely happened. And I think that it's time now for them
So you don't believe... So well, look, let me come to Katie Nicholl, because Katie, you were covering their entire time within the royal family, as was I. I appreciate there are two sides to the story, but surely, Katie, given what the Sussex Survivor Squad members say, they at least deserve their opportunity to speak out on the record. Then we could compare what Harry and Meghan have to say with what their staff have to say. That just seems fair to me.
Listen, Dan, it would be absolutely fascinating to hear from the Sussex Survivor Squad. I mean, those are the interviews I want to listen to. I want to hear those people go on the record. You know, the problem is once you start lifting gagging orders and confidentiality agreements, you get into all sorts of hot water. And then, of course, it gives the couple even more ammunition to say, well, look at this. You know, you're behind this smear campaign. I mean, the biggest problem with all of this and with this 6-part docuseries is we're only going to hear their side of the story. I'm sure that just as what happened in the fallout with Oprah, it will all turn into a race row. And I think Britain's found itself at the centre of the most ugly, appalling race row that we've ever been in. And it's the Sussexes that have landed us here. And I think it just does such a great disservice to the memory of the late Queen, who was so proud of Britain as a melting pot of culture. She was so proud of the Commonwealth. Yes, certain things have to change. I think the Commonwealth will change under the reign of King Charles III. He's already acknowledged our history with slavery as a stain on our nation's history. There's no avoiding this. I think you're going to see things change, but to just make the assertion that this is a sort of, little tiny racist island that didn't make Meghan feel welcome, and to turn this all into a race row, for me, it's terribly unfair, and I don't think Britain, the media, or the palace deserve it. I really don't.
I mean, Joanna Jaju, that's a really fair point, isn't it? Because the Queen spent her working life trying to solve racial division. Her focus was the Commonwealth. She was incredibly passionate about Africa, the Indian subcontinent, the Caribbean. This is undoing that. Do you think she deserves, Joanna, to be labelled a racist by her own grandson?
Well, let's be clear, especially in the Oprah interview, Meghan and Harry spoke very highly of the Queen. And when they were asked about,
Yeah, but that's trashing the monarchy, and that's trashing the Queen.
About the Queen. We're talking about the Queen specifically. They spoke very highly of her, and they said that...
But she is the institution.
No,
she was the institution.
The country is a bigoted... The thing is, there's the royal family, there's their love for the Queen, but also let's acknowledge that what they're also being awarded for is speaking out about the firm, about the institution. So
but
when, for example, people
the late
grief,
Queen.
when you were breaking stories, etc., about them, Dan, it must have been coming from somewhere. It may not have been coming from...
Well, let me tackle that head on, Joanna. Let me tackle that head on, because there's going to be a lot of this over the next couple of days, and Katie might want to weigh in as well. But this idea that hardworking journalists like Katie and I, who have spent years and years building up contacts, and that we pick up our phone, oh, hello, Buckingham Palace, or you've got something nasty to say about Meghan, let me put it on the front page of The Sun. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. The folk at Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace actually spent hours and hours on the phone trying to kill off negative stories about Meghan and Harry, trying to kill off stories about her bullying behaviour. And as a journalist, Joanna, I follow the story. And so in the end, I was confident enough in my sources. I knew that the Queen had warned Prince Harry about Meghan's behaviour. Katie, I don't know if you disagree, but to me, that is a story very much in the public interest, and I think I was right to publish it.
I'm journalist. I'm talking about the institution. I'm not attacking you, because at the end of the day, it's got to come from somewhere. What I'm saying is that when Meghan and Harry are making their criticisms, when they're talking about institutional racism, we can't just concentrate on the fact that, they're offending the Queen, they're offending the family, they're offending the monarchy. It's also about the firm. It's about,
I'm going to give Katie, and then Lilani, you can have the last word. So Katie, do you want to weigh in?
I just know that from so many people that I speak to about this discourse, this issue of race in the media, race at the palace, race within Britain, I think that Meghan and Harry are among the anomalies. I just don't think it is the view of most of the people that I speak to. I don't believe there was a concerted campaign against this couple. I think things went wrong when they started behaving badly.
And they have changed the narrative.
It had nothing to do with the colour of anybody's skin. It was down to bad behaviour. And I revealed in my book how the Queen pulled Meghan up on her behaviour because of the way that she spoke to her staff.
Which is a story, which is a legitimate story.
I have to just say, just to echo that point, Dan made, and you're right, because we're going to be quizzed and hauled over the coals over this over the coming days about our sources and everything else. My experience with the Sussex team, with the Kensington team, they tried their hardest to play down rumours of a rift. They tried their hardest to protect that couple. In the end, Harry and Meghan chose not to get their advice. When their aide said, don't jump on a private plane to Elton's because you're going to get hammered over it, they jumped on a private plane to Elton's and they got hammered for it.
Indeed. Lilani, final word to you.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like everyone loved her at the start. Everyone loved her at the start. And if she had just followed on with how it was at the wedding, beautiful, multicultural, we had black singers, musicians, poets, everything there. But she didn't. She went and tore down the royalty, the media, and then also the British people as well, saying that we're all racist. And the reason that we didn't like her was because of her colour, which is the most ridiculous thing. I remember the turning point for me was when she was in Africa at a very vulnerable children's home. And she said, but no one's asked about me. You're in Africa, around the most vulnerable children in the world.
This isn't
and
about
you're
you,
thinking about
and that's the point of monarchy. No, very good point. Thank you so much to the social commentators Lilani Dowdy and Joanna Jarju, and Vanity Fair royal editor. Her analysis tomorrow will be must-read, Katie Nicholl. So who do you agree with? Do Harry and Meghan deserve an award for fighting oppression? Karen on Twitter says a Best Actress and Actor award maybe, but definitely not an award for fighting oppression. Sean on Twitter says the Beverly Hillbillies only won the award because they are self-obsessed attention seekers. And from Eunice, it's about time British people get over this issue of Harry and Meghan as this drags Britain and her institutions through the mud. And your verdict is now in. Just 8% of you agree the Sussexes do deserve that award for fighting oppression. The Robert F. Kennedy Award, 92% of you say no. They shouldn't have got it. Coming up, as the deadly Strep A outbreak is linked to an immunity debt, can we ever forget COVID hysterics for making children pay the price of lockdown? Social media sensation June Slater hits out in tonight's Outsider at 9:50. But first, after demanding answers from the squirming Albanian ambassador over the invasion of British shores today, Westminster's toughest talking MP, Lee Anderson, joins me to explain why we need to cap asylum claims now. Taste of the real world with Lee Anderson that the Albanian ambassador faced earlier, straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview channel 236.
And YouView channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time for The Real World with Lee Anderson, Westminster's toughest talking MP and our Redwall Rottweiler, stuck true to his no-nonsense reputation today, demanding answers from the Albanian ambassador as to why thousands from the NATO country crossed the channel on dinghies to claim asylum when they could simply get a £28 plane fare.
Can't they visit the country for £28, travel on a plane for £28, come, i.e. on a holiday, and then claim asylum? Why can't they do that?
I don't have this information.
No, you do have this information. Why can't they do that?
Well, I can't suppose why they do that.
Is it perhaps, do you think, because if they come legally and produce a passport and documents that our authorities, our border control, know exactly who these people are?
I don't have any answer for
Why not? Why don't you have an answer for that?
Because I don't know people that are coming legally apply for asylum.
I'll put it to you then, Ambassador. I think, is my theory, that people coming and paying thousands of pounds to get here illegally, making a perilous journey, that probably quite a high proportion of those are going to be involved in some sort of criminal activity when they get here.
Oli, that was such a pertinent exchange, wasn't it? Because, of course, you pointed out a very common sense fact. He had no answer to it, and we know why, don't we, Lee?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Because they don't want to come over on one of those £28 flights with documentation.
Well, if they come here legally, Dan, then we know who they are, where they're from, how old they are, and more importantly, what they've been up to in the past. And that might include criminal activity. He couldn't answer a single question today. I don't know what he's doing or how much they're paying this man. It was absolutely pathetic. I sat there for 5 or 6 minutes asking him questions. I didn't get a straight answer to one question. I'll tell you what the answer is, Dan. We've got 12,000 Albanian economic migrants. He did admit that earlier in the session today. He told us, he's quite frank with it, that they're not genuine asylum seekers. They're not escaping any sort of slavery. They are economic migrants coming over here to open businesses and make a better life themselves. It's there. He said it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Coco, I want him on the show,
Get him
actually, because he needs to answer questions far better than that, given the strife that his country, actually the intransigence from the Albanian government to actually admit that there's a problem. So this week, Lee, was there any progress from the Westminster side of things? Because this Nick Timothy report came out. He was on the show last night. Lots of very sensible suggestions, which I think you and I both agree with. But the point is, it's completely pointless unless Braverman, backed by Sunak, can actually implement this rule.
Well, I've met with both Suella and Rishi over the past couple of days. Both assure me that they're on it. It's their number one priority. Look, the report that come out, I've looked at that report, Dan. I agree with pretty much everything that's in there. It's very hard to disagree with anything there. We need political will. I believe Suella, she wants to get it done. We need the backing from Rishi. He tells me today in the tea room at work that it's his number one priority. I've got to back him. But you know what? We're on notice, really, with this. We've got to get this sorted out early next year at the very, very latest, because, you know, the patience is running thin in places like Ashford. My patience is running thin. And you know what? It's like 12,000 Albanians, 40-odd thousand in total. It's an absolute disgrace.
And did you tell Sunak that today?
Yes, he knows. I mean, I'm probably one of the most vocal MPs on this, Dan, as you probably know. I'm up in the chamber, up and down every single week raising this. I'm out in the media, I do your show. I couldn't be any more vocal. I feel like a bit of a weirdo. I've said it before. I keep getting up and saying the same old thing. But, you know, whenever I've got a breath in my body, I want to keep saying it until we get it sorted. The British public deserve better.
But the big issue is that I believe it requires Sunak to have the guts, the balls, however you want to put it, to leave the ECHR. And I question whether he does, because I know Suella wants to.
Yes, I do. And, you know, I think we're going to struggle with that with Parliament. That's going to be a big obstacle to get over, Dan. But, you know, if we get the Bill of Rights correct, and we can, you know, override certain parts of the ECHR, that might do it. And the big thing for me, Dan, I've always said it, and I don't know why we didn't do it in the Nationality and Borders Bill, is if people arrive here illegally, then automatically disqualify them from claiming asylum. So simple.
There's another crisis, though, Lee, which is going to be heading possibly very near the top of the PM's agenda, maybe just behind the legal migrant crisis, and of course, strikes. These unions, militant unions, which, by the way, donated £1.6 million to Labour over the past year, are trying to ruin our Christmas. And this feels now like a real coordinated move to create a winter of discontent and to maybe even try and force some sort of early election. Who knows? But it's very politicised now, Lee. So where do your constituents stand on this? Because I imagine there are some who are members of these unions who believe that they should get an above-inflation pay rise, and then there are others who are saying, holy crap, you're ruining my private business or you're ruining my holiday travel.
I think, Dan, there's sympathy out there for these people. Yeah, we all want to pay it rise. You've been through a tough time over the couple of years. But you know what? What we have to realise that when people in the public sector are getting these pay rises, these inflation-busting pay rises, that doesn't come from a biscuit tin or a pot of money in central government. That's taxpayers' money. So somewhere along the line, that's got to be paid for. And I've got people in Ashford, although they've got sympathy for it, they're getting 3 and 4% pay rises, and they're thinking, my goodness, why should somebody get 16, 17% in the health service, 10, 11%, I think, for the rail workers? They're thinking, my goodness, you know, we're getting, like I say, 3 or 4%. We're struggling as well. We've just come out of a pandemic. We should be pulling together. I know people will come back to greedy MPs getting big pay rises. I think we got 2% last year and nothing the year before. I'm not feeling sorry for myself, but we need to pull together. And these greedy, these union bosses, you know, I think the RMT president, he's a Marxist. He must be on 6 figures a year. He's on a lot of money. Yeah. He's got no interest in his members earning minimum wage. All he's interested in is his own ego and bringing the government down. They should be ashamed of themselves, Dan.
He's a bully boy trot.
He is. He's a Marxist.
And he wants to be famous and he wants the attention. But I think what's particularly despicable, but I actually wonder if this is what will help your government, actually, is the fact that don't do this to our Christmas. No. Don't play with our Christmas. It's just wrong. We haven't had a normal Christmas, actually, Lee, for 3 years.
That's right.
We deserve this as a country.
Yeah.
Actually, it's an attack on family. It's an attack on the church. It makes me really angry.
I agree, Dan. Look, you've had a tough 3 years. People, you know, still recovering from the lockdowns. That was terrible. People getting back to normal. And what's happening? We've got these people. They're no better than fifth columnists to me. They are taking advantage of a real tough time we've had over the past few years. They're sticking the boot in. That's all they're doing. And you Mick Lynch's and these other creatures that are running these unions, like I say, they're on 150 grand a year. They're not interested really in the own.
They're not in the real world like you.
They're not in the real world, Dan.
Nelly, I've got to call you out finally because you have done something which you promised me, you vowed you would never do. You have joined the woke mob on Twitter. Yeah. Is this because of Elon Musk and the fact that it's freedom of speech, or did you just think it's finally time to unleash?
Well, I'll tell you what it is, Dan. People keep telling me every week in that place that I'm trending on Twitter, and I didn't know what trending meant. And I looked it up, and they said, you're trending, you've got to get on there. So I thought, you know what we need to do? We need to bring some common sense, some political common sense back into Twitter. Twitter's not the real world. It's a plaything, really. Don't take it seriously. What I've learned on Twitter already, somebody's offered to sue me already. I've only been on there 24 hours. I've actually been insulted and had more hateful messages on Twitter in 48 hours than I've had on Facebook in the past 10 years. Yeah. It's a sewer.
Join the club. It's the cesspit. It's slightly addictive, though. OK, where can we find you?
It's Lee Anderson MP _
Lee Anderson MP _. You already have tens of thousands of followers. You're a Twitter sensation, Lee. Yeah. I wonder if some of those lefties are just hate following you.
Well, you see some of them, Dan, on there. I had one, he's been on Twitter for 10 years. I think he's got 4 followers. So I'll just message him and say, you know, figure it out for yourself, mate. Twitter's probably not for you.
The Real World with Lee Anderson. Lee, we'll do it again next week. Thank you so much. But coming up, as Rishi Sunak vows to get tough on strikes and border force workers become the latest to stage industrial action during the Christmas of chaos, which we just discussed, will Labour's unholy alliance with the unions be their downfall? My superstar panel debate that, and I'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in the media buzz after 10. But first, as the deadly Strep A outbreak is linked to lockdown, can we ever forgive COVID hysterics for making our children pay an immunity debt? Social media sensation June Slater hits out at Quarantine Zealots. She's up in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates and strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Self-confessed Chief Gammon June Slater is tonight's outsider. And at least 9 young children have died amid a deadly strep A outbreak in the UK, which has now been linked to COVID lockdowns. It comes as scarlet fever infections are also on the rise amongst kids. Experts have warned that locking children in their homes over the past 2 years may have left immune systems vulnerable. Dr. Alistair Munro, a paediatrics infectious disease expert, said there's now an immunity debt from not mixing with other humans. Meanwhile, Susan Hopkins, remember her, Chief Medical Officer at UK Health Security Agency, said measures we have taken for the last couple of years to reduce COVID circulation will also reduce other infections circulation as things get back to normal. These traditional infections that we've seen for many years are circulating at great levels. So, June, it looks like children are now paying the price for these draconian lockdowns that folk like Hopkins and Vallance and Whitty and Hancock all pushed for.
Yes, I'd like to apologise to the parents of these children on behalf of our government, because you've no chance of getting one from them. You've only got to read a few short extracts from Matt Hancock's book, where he turns around and actually admits in his book, in his own words, that the reason they masked kids in school wasn't because they were going to do it. It was because Nicola Sturgeon beat them to it. It was a political manoeuvre.
And that is playing politics, June, with our kids' mental health. I mean, it's so wrong.
And not to mention breathing in your own bugs all day and, you know, kids don't wear masks properly. And then you've got the other debacle where Hancock has a run-in with Kate Bingham, who forewarned about rolling out the vaccine on the entire nation. when she said, is it wise? Because it comes with high risks. And he took that as a personal slight on his acumen. He was more upset about being challenged about his decision-making. He was the man who chose the only route out of lockdown was a fully vaccinated society. And he was clearly wrong, because I'm sat here, I'm not vaccinated. Half of the people you have on here as guests aren't vaccinated. We're all still alive, folks. We all made it through. It's not an emergency 3 years down the road. And they're planning to do a formula of lockdowns. Valance has already said it in a House of Lords document that future climate emergencies will implement COVID-style lockdowns. Emergencies are here and now, aren't they? That's an emergency. An ambulance going past your house, that's an emergency. Something that's going to happen to the planet in 1,000 years' time is not an emergency. And yet they plan to roll out various forms of lockdown on us in the future. If people haven't got it yet, that lockdowns were a mistake. Lockdowns should never have happened. They were based on guesswork, not science. Not science. They'd never been used before. And the only country to run full weight with this is China, who are still building what I call concentration camps for people who test positive to go and be isolated. Thousands and thousands being built right now. And we've got a man in the Chancery that admires the way China did everything. We are doomed if we don't fight back. It's up to the people. This is why, Dan.
You're right. You're completely right, June, and we will continue this conversation. June Slater, thank you so much. But coming up, as an alleged Meghan bullying victim warns of lies in the Sussex Netflix series, should the palace come out swinging against the Duke and Duchess, the woman who literally wrote the book on Prince Harry with his approval? Angela Levin gives her verdict at 10:20. But first, as yet more strikes are announced, will Labour's unholy alliance with their union paymasters be their downfall? My superstar panel return to debate that in the Media Buzz next.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, as an alleged bullying victim of Meghan warns of the lies in the Duke and Duchess of Delusion's new Netflix show.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then everything changed.
So, is it time for the palace to ungag the Sussex Survivors Squad so they can reveal their truth about Harry and Meghan? Esteemed royal biographer Angela Levin explains why it's high time we heard the other side to this story. She's live with me at 10:20. Then, one of America's most outspoken politicians, former Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, gives her verdict on whether the reality misadventure will end up destroying the Sussex's reputation stateside. That's a special edition of Uncancelled USA coming up at 10:40. As Border Force staff become the latest to stage walkouts during this December of discontent, will Labour's unholy alliance with Marxist unions backfire? My superstar panel debate that in the media buzz after the news. Tonight, I'm joined by Dawn Neeson, Adam Brooks and Ashley James. Plus, would you jab your baby? Well, the UK has approved COVID vaccines for youngsters despite a stark study showing nearly 1 in 500 are hospitalised with side effects. So why are our health authorities still obsessed with jabbing the newborn? That's a big debate at 10:30. Matt Hancock finally delivered some good news to the nation today as he announced he won't be standing at the next election. At least we'll have the memories, Hancock.
Well, it's just, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and they're...
More of Matt's lowlights coming up shortly. Plus, I'll deliver you tomorrow's newspaper front pages hot off the press throughout the next hour in the media buzz. And as always, a brand new Greatest Britain and Union jackass will be crowned before the night is out, so don't go anywhere. But first, the news at 10 with Tatiana Sanchez.
Dan, thank you very much. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has given planning permission for a new coal mine in Cumbria. The plan was recommended by the Independent Planning Inspector. It's the first coal mine in the country for 30 years. The government says the coal will be used for the production of steel and not for power generation. But Shadow Climate Secretary Ed Miliband said this was a terrible decision.
Opening a new coal mine marks the death knell for any claims this government has to climate leadership, and it won't provide the sustainable jobs we need. We should be going full pelt for the clean, green jobs of the future. But Rishi Sunak is so weak, being pushed around by his backbenchers, that he just can't deliver.
The Home Office says military personnel and volunteers are being trained to support services, including Border Force at airports and ports, as further strikes are announced. The Public and Commercial Services Union says around 1,000 Border Force workers will walk out over the festive period. Members working at Gatwick, Heathrow, Manchester, Birmingham and Cardiff airports will strike for 8 days from December the 23rd until New Year's Eve in a row over pay, jobs and conditions. Minister for Immigration Robert Jenrick says the decision is unjustifiable and will ruin the plans of thousands of families and businesses right across the country. The RMT union says a resolution to the ongoing strikes are further away due to what it calls a late intervention by the government. The comments come amid a wave of strikes across a number of public sectors. Ambulance staff will strike in a dispute over pay and conditions. Nurses, teachers and rail workers are due to take action in the coming weeks. Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock has announced he won't stand again at the next general election. In a letter to the Prime Minister, he said he was proud of his 9 years in government, making reference to the UK having the first COVID vaccine in the world. The Lawn Tennis Association has been fined £820,000 by the ATP for its ban on male Russian and Belarusian players. The LTA say the ban was imposed due to the Russian invasion on Ukraine. The governing body has also been warned it could lose its ATP membership if it makes a similar decision again next year. The ATP allows Russians and Belarusians to compete in tour events, but not under their national flags. And Raheem Sterling is considering returning to Qatar ahead of England's quarter-final against reigning champions France, depending on the safety of his family. Sterling flew to the UK following a burglary at his house last week. His family weren't in the house at the time. 2 men were arrested last night and they're currently in custody. We'll bring you much more on that as we get it. For now, that's it. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Dan Wootton tonight.
Time for tomorrow's news tonight now in our Media Buzz. First front pages are in, straight to the Metro. Their headline, Bang to Rijks. Quite a jovial approach to a serious story. 33 alleged plotters arrested in dawn raids this morning following the thwarting of an alleged plot to storm the German parliament, overthrow the government and install a new far-right regime. And on the front of the eye, Hancock booted out after local Tories revolt. We'll have more on that great news shortly. My superstar panel back with me now. Former editor, current columnist at the Daily Star, always sparkly Dawn Neeson, the businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster Ashley James. Breaking tonight, Border Force staff at major airports around the country, including Heathrow, Gatwick and Manchester, will be joining Britain's December strike chaos, effectively killing off hopes of a Christmas getaway for many. The raft of planned industrial action coordinated by hard-left union barons, including Marxist Mick the Grinch Lynch, will impact nearly every aspect of our personal lives and see an estimated 2 million workers striking practically every day of the Advent. And in the case of the more than 10,000 ambulance workers downing tools on December the 21st, our lives could even be at stake, according to a warning by Health Secretary Steve Barclay.
In terms of what will be covered by the strikes, we're discussing that with the trade unions. They have said that they will cover life-threatening conditions.
So
now, that tends to be less those sort of cases. They're usually called a Cat 3. So there's 4 categories of call: life-threatening, which is Category 1, emergency, which is Category 2. Those tend to be things like heart attacks and strokes. So your case K would often be classed as a Category or Category 4. At the moment, the trade unions are saying those things wouldn't be covered.
Faced with a growing winter of discontent, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was today forced to announce a major crackdown on strikes.
The union leaders to continue to be unreasonable, then it is my duty to take action to protect the lives and livelihoods of the British public. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, since I became Prime Minister, I have been working for new, tough laws to protect people from this disruption. That's the legislation he's asking about. Will he now confirm that he'll stand up for working people and that he and his party will back that legislation?
So while the pressure is on for the Tories to free Britain from the grip of the unions, it's Labour who could bear the brunt of the public's anger, hence the PM's challenge to Starmer there. According to data from the Electoral Commission, the party pocketed 1.6 million from Unite, Unison, GMB and the like in the third quarter of this year alone. And writing in the Daily Mail, former Labour MP and current peer Lord Ian Austin warned if Keir Starmer thinks this winter's disruption will help him convincingly win the next election, he might just be surprised. Lots of working people, many of them swing voters, will be furious about the disruption and will not trust a party they suspect is still in thrall to the unions. So, Dawn Neeson, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because, of course, the winter of discontent will be very bad for the Tories. This bill is only on its first reading. They haven't been urgent enough. They knew this was coming. It's like, you promised this back in 2019. What were you doing? But it's an interesting point, isn't it, Dawn, that Labour is on a very tight line here. Because on the one hand, they're trying to be on the side of the people, but we know they're still funded by the unions.
Yeah, to the tune of £3 million. To be honest with you, they really are. So they cannot go against their paymasters, can they? So it'll be very interesting. I was just curious, if Labour were in power now, what would they do? How would they do? Would they just give everybody an inflation-matching pay rise? Because then the country would go bust. And if you go back to 1974-79, when the Labour government were in the situation that Labour could potentially be in now, the original winter of discontent, which I'm old enough to remember, unfortunately, it didn't bode well. It saw Labour out of power and ushered Margaret Thatcher in with the draconian measures she had then that got the country out of the mess. Whether you liked her or not, it did work. So Labour have to be very careful here because they can't offend their paymasters, but history is not kind to Labour in this situation.
Because, Ashley, I know you've been very supportive of the unions and the strikers, but can you understand that ordinary folk who may have actually had a lot of sympathy for the likes of nurses in particular are now thinking, you're trying to stop me sending my Christmas cards, you're trying to stop me getting to a pub to celebrate my Christmas party with my workmates. You're trying to stop me getting on a train or a plane to go home and see my family for the first time in 3 years. Enough.
Yeah, I agree. Look, it's awful, but we have to direct our anger
at the government. This
No, we
is
don't.
10 years
Why do we have
of
to?
cuts and austerity. And
Yeah,
by the
but
way,
it's the unions who are making the
MPs
decision
have
to
had
do
a
this over Christmas.
MPs have had a 20% pay increase since 2010. And actually, we do need to get behind, especially our NHS workers, because I find it so disingenuous of Steve Barclay.
19%.
I find it
A 19% pay increase.
It's gone down, I think, something like 20% over a decade.
Okay, so you think a 19%
they have to
pay
start
increase?
Somewhere. They have to start somewhere.
They
And
had
at the moment,
4%
the
this year and
rate
3%
of
last
inflation
year.
is 14.9%. You have tons of staff leaving the NHS. There are so many staff shortages, and the people who are remaining are burnt out. But more importantly, they are not able to provide duty of care. Lots of senior staff leaving, which means that junior staff are having to do things out of their competency bracket. It's dangerous. And if the government don't start listening... By the way, nobody wants to strike. Nobody wants to strike.
But we cannot afford 19%.
I mean, Adam, I'm fascinated to know your point of view, because the thing is, this is impacting private businesses, especially in the hospitality industry. Of course, you are our resident pub landlord, so this is actually hitting your industry again.
Hospitality businesses, especially those based in the cities, have been decimated, not only by COVID, but this whole culture of working from home as well. You know, hospitality in city centres is at lows. You know, it really is in a precarious position. Now, December is a month where, you know, certainly for me sometimes, you catch up on bills and suppliers and, you know, it's a bump, there's something left for you, you know, and you're mindful that you're going into January and February, which are really bad months. So December is crucial for our sector. And for them to do these strikes, and they've been told how much it's going to affect, I think it was 40%, Kate Nichols quoted, you know, it's so damaging, it will cost jobs, people won't be getting their shifts, businesses might have been relying on that money to pay certain debts. I forecast that January and February, we will see a record number of hospitality businesses become insolvent and go to the wall.
But this is the problem I have with Mick Lynch. I mean, he's always saying, oh, we are for the working people, but he is actually causing working people to lose their jobs.
Don't give a damn about the private sector. And the problem is, I have huge sympathy for certain workers, of course I do, but I also have huge sympathy for the folk who are working in the private sector who are going to get offered no increase this year whatsoever and going to be lucky to stay in work. Now, Matt Hancock delivered a much-needed tonic to the nation this morning by announcing he won't be standing at the next election. Woo-hoo! But while the disgraced former Health Secretary is trying to tell us that this was his decision, that claim appears to be about as honest as he was to his estranged wife. Yes, I went there. Hancock reportedly jumped before he was pushed after the wannabe reality star lost the confidence of his West Suffolk Constituency Association, who ruled he was not fit to represent them. Not surprising, given he left them all in the lurch in the cost of living crisis to go and earn £450,000 by eating kangaroo testicles in the Australian jungle. This is the bizarre way he announced his resignation on TikTok. Cringe.
Today I'm announcing that I won't be standing for Parliament as a Conservative at the next election. It increasingly comes to the view that it's so important to engage with people about politics, about how our country is run, not just through Parliament, but also through new and innovative ways. And I look forward to doing more of that.
Well, Matt, I really wanted to make you a best bits montage, but I struggled to find any, so here are your lowlights instead, mate. Sorry.
You're quite emotional about that.
Well, it's just, it's been, you know, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it so simply for everybody that today, anybody over 30 can get your vaccine, so get out there and get your vaccine.
Are you worried about Dominic Cummings giving evidence today, Mr. Hancock?
It's been absolutely fantastic being here this morning with Matt Hancock. Don't stop me now.
Maybe that's the only good thing Rishi's done since becoming PM. Ashley James, Adam Brooks, Dawn Neeson. Do stand by, because coming up, as the UK approves vaccines for babies as young as 6 months, why are our health authorities still obsessed with jabbing the young against COVID? And would you jab your child? My superstar panel return, as to the newspaper front pages in Media Buzz, the sequel at 10:30. But first, with mere hours to go until they detonate their Netflix bombshell, should royal staff and the palace finally speak out against Harry and Meghan? Royal biographer Angela Levin, of course, she spent a huge amount of time with Prince Harry, joins me straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other pay-per-review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Now, as the Duke and Duchess of Woke prepare to launch a grenade after grenade attack on the royal family on Netflix tomorrow, the long-silent Sussex Survivor Squad is rallying for retaliation. There have long been allegations that Meghan viciously bullied staff, something she denies, but the downtrodden aides have been bound by confidentiality agreements, preventing them from exposing what really went on behind closed doors. And while a review into the claims was undertaken by an independent law firm, the findings have never been published by Buckingham Palace. Now, as Harry and Meghan's war on the Windsors reaches a dangerous new low, a former employee of the Duchess has reportedly had enough of the, quote, lies and is calling on the palace to lift the shackles on ex-staffers so they can set the record straight. I'm joined now by the woman who literally wrote the book on Prince Harry, royal biographer Angela Levin, who, of course, spent a lot of time in the company of the Duke of Sussex. Angela, I feel very strongly, actually, given Harry has pledged for the full truth to now be emerged, and given Meghan has spoken about how terrible it is for people to be silenced, that surely the Sussex Survivor Squad should now be able to speak out.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can understand that it's very hard for King Charles and Queen Camilla to speak out because they're very involved emotionally in it all. But these are people who take low salaries, work very hard, are devoted to the royal family, and they work long hours, and they, you know, I've seen them running around and doing things and making sure everything's all right, and they really put their heart and soul into it. It's not just a job, any old job. It's something that they really they're really keen about. And why shouldn't they have their say? I mean, why should they be silenced? If Meghan is complaining about people being silenced and she thinks it's particularly bad for women, then it should happen to everyone. Why should they silence the people who work for the palace?
Well, indeed, and what they're saying, and there's one particular former staff member who was speaking to Valentine Lowe at the Times, and what they are saying is that is that fundamentally they should be able to speak out because it's their reputation that is being sullied.
Yes, absolutely. They do very well if they come from the royal family to get another job because people understand how hard they've worked and how they're devoted to their occupation. But if they're treated and talked to but like somebody like Meghan, who sort of absolutely wipes them out and thinks they're, maybe dirt on the pavement, why should they risk their whole careers being ruined by this woman? They just should not. It's not right. It's just terrible that you could even think of doing that, actually. So this is, again, an example of hypocrisy. Don't do what I do, do as I tell you. And it happens with planes, it happens with the truth, and it happens with staff. It's just, she's fine, nobody must criticise her. It's not even a racist issue. It's just you cannot criticise her because you're then negative. You become negative.
Now, other former employees, Angela, have reportedly hit out at the brazen fakery of the Harry and Meghan trail, which misrepresents footage of Katie Price at court, Trump's former lawyer going to prison, a Harry Potter premiere, the list goes on, to create the illusion of a media frenzy around Harry and Meghan. I wanted to share with you what one of these staff members also told The Times. She never confronted scenes where she was mobbed because we did so much to protect her. So they've had to make them up. Now, Team Sussex have since hit back with a source familiar with the doco, insisting that using stock images and footage is standard practice. They added, it's not meant to be literal in a trailer. But are you satisfied by that explanation? Yeah. Because to me, this is out-and-out fakery. No.
They would have seen it, they would have looked at it, they would have passed it. I can hear them laughing at it because they're making fools of us, because they're using these things to create the image that they want for themselves. But it's all insinuations. That's what's even worse, actually. They haven't got the courage to say who's been racist, who's been nasty to them, who's been after them, who's made their lives difficult. It's all insinuations, and I don't think that that's right. It has to be somebody to cross that out and make sure that they either say exactly who it is or shut up.
I know, because that's what I worry about. They talk in a lot of generalities.
Yes.
They have got their big thugs around them to contribute to this documentary. So there's one woman who is paid for as their lawyer. So, of course, she's going to be on their side. She's raking in tens of thousands of pounds to defend them. And then there's this other bloke who's come for you before, hasn't he?
Yes.
And he literally has a website set up almost as a Harry and Meghan propaganda vehicle. At the same time, he has been a troll about the appearance of William and Kate. So why on earth should we listen to what he has to say?
Yes, he's been vile about me, making all sorts of accusations that he's secretly discovered that I've got a secret connection with right-wingers who don't want her around. It's absolute nonsense. and very disturbing to me because that can affect my career. Of course, but it's all just carefully done, so it's not actually libelous, but it's almost.
Exactly, there's a suggestion there.
Yes.
And the fact is, Angela, we have to make this very clear because, unfortunately, our profession and our job is going to come under the microscope over the next 2 weeks because Harry and Meghan have made it clear that this documentary is also going to target the British press and the British media. So let's just be clear about something. You were the journalist who knew Prince Harry best.
Yes.
You spent hours and hours with him writing your biography of
15
him.
months,
And he
you see.
granted you that access.
Yes.
And when Meghan entered the royal family, like most journalists, including me, by the way, you were very prepared to give her a chance and to see how it went, weren't you?
Yes. I was lucky enough to be one of the lead presenters of their wedding. I was there from 4 a.m, 10 p.m. I was so excited. I even cried with happiness because at last Harry had found someone who could take the spotlight and who loved him and he loved her. How wonderful. But when I went on their first engagement, before they were married, to Nottingham, I was astonished how she pushed her way forward, how she, sort of as she does now with Harry, pushes him out the way while she goes first. And I thought to myself, this is very strange for someone who's not married, who doesn't know anything about how the royal family works. Oh, my goodness. And that's what I felt ever
So you
since.
thought the signs were there.
Yes.
But the key thing is you were prepared to give them a chance.
Oh, yes.
And your journalism, your reporting changed as you learnt the way that Meghan was behaving, you learnt the way that she was treating staff members.
Yes, I mean, it's inevitable, really, because I spent a lot of my career interviewing people and having, so people say, good insight. And if you watch and if you're there and you see, you come to conclusions that do make sense. And you can see the fact that it's all speak and no action. I think, in a way, they know that it's very difficult for the royal family to speak out. So they're pushing and pushing and pushing the boundaries harder and harder and getting worse and worse. And I think this might be absolutely a big crash for them because people are having enough. People don't like it that they're attacking family. Yeah. And I think that if you're a journalist, you have to take a bit of a knock, but not when it's vile and incredibly unpleasant.
And this is the make or break moment. Look, I think fundamentally for me, people have lost the argument when the only thing they can lean back on is identity politics. They won't allow these staff members to speak out. They only want their side of the truth.
Yes.
They don't really believe in the full truth. But look, Angela Levin, it's going to be a fascinating day tomorrow.
Yes, I'm going to be up early.
And of course, we will have the full analysis of that bombshell TV series. Don't worry, we're going to watch it for you so you don't have to tomorrow night from 9 o'clock. But coming up, should Prince Harry and Meghan really be winning an honour named after one of America and the world's greatest political forces? Well, former Republican vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin gives the stateside verdict on the Sussexes live at 10:40. But next in the media buzz, as the UK approves vaccines for babies as young as 6 months, why are our health authorities still obsessed with jabbing the young against COVID-19? My superstar panel join me, and more of the front pages arrive straight up.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's return to tomorrow's News Tonight now on our Media Buzz. Lots of front pages are in, so straight to them. The Mirror reports I'm a celebrity finalist and occasional politician Matt Hancock has his eye on TV fame. After announcing he will not stand as an MP at the next election, he's reportedly been lined up to host a number of documentaries, among other projects. Oh, God spare me. The Independent leads with the government's approval of Britain's first coal mine in 30 years. Hallelujah, I'm very happy about this. The Woodhouse colliery in Cumbria is facing a high-profile opposition, of course, including from ex-Tory Minister Lord Dem. Army fury as soldiers ordered to give up Christmas over strikes leads the Telegraph. Senior military figures have told ministers soldiers should not be made to miss Christmas to cover striking NHS workers who earn more than them. I mean, that's a very good point, isn't it? The Daily Express hits the nail on the head, by the way, regarding Harry and Meghan's war on the royal family. Stop this betrayal of our beloved Queen. Yes, it's referring to a promise made to the late monarch in January 2020 that they would, quote, continue to uphold the values of Her Majesty. Let's clock that up as another lie. And in the Daily Star, cry God for Harry, England, and especially Kyle Walker, who's marking the world-class Kylian Mbappe. It's less than 3 days until the big World Cup quarter-final against France, and the paper is sending its best wishes to England right back. More on the BD Buzz now with former editor, current columnist at that paper, Dawn Neeson, the businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster Ashley James. Outspoken Tory backbencher Andrew Bridgen today challenged Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on the controversial decision to approve COVID vaccines for babies as young as 6 months. The MP for North West Leicestershire questioned its necessity and raised safety concerns after a Stark study revealed nearly 1 in 500 under-5s are hospitalised with adverse effects after receiving the Pfizer mRNA vaccine.
Mr. Speaker, there have been more reported deaths and adverse reactions following mRNA vaccination in 18 months than there has been to every conventional vaccine administered worldwide for the last 50 years. And given the Right Honourable Friend overturned the Big Pharma-funded MHRA's recent recommendation that these experimental vaccines are administered to children as young as 6 months of age?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me first say that I believe COVID vaccines are indeed safe and effective. And no vaccine, COVID or otherwise, will be approved unless it meets the UK regulated standards of safety, quality and effectiveness.
So not the most convincing response from Fishy Rishi, and a strange one, Children almost never become seriously ill with the virus, and parents don't seem keen on jabbing their kids anyway, with little more than 10% of 5 to 11-year-olds in England having received the COVID vaccine. So, Ashley James, you were pregnant, of course. You have very bravely and emotionally spoken on the show before about how when you were previously pregnant, you actually felt coerced by the government into getting the COVID vaccine. So how do you feel now about being given the option to jab a 6-month-old? Because I presume you'll have to make this decision in the next
If it's our decision to make, we don't know yet, but
it has to be.
I find it astonishing. I think for me, I've vaccinated Alf against loads of different diseases. I even chose to do the chickenpox vaccine. But with this one, I think I still feel really let down by the lies that it was going to stop the spread of COVID, which we now know not to be true. But also, my son has had COVID, and I mean, it was very scary at the time because obviously we didn't know what it could be, but it wasn't life-threatening, and it's really concerning the the cases, the side effects of the vaccine. Talking about inflammation of the heart muscle, for me personally, that's way more scary than him having COVID. So, yeah, I can't understand why we would need to vaccinate our children against COVID when they're not at a life-threatening risk.
Adam Brooks, because actually you've been very outspoken about jabs for children. And, of course, I guess the great thing is the British public have proven this is something they're not really going to take up. But the point is, there isn't a risk to young children.
I've got 3 children. 2 of them have had COVID at least 3 times. Hasn't troubled them. It's a bad cold. Now, in November 2020, Matt Hancock said in Parliament, "This vaccine will not be used for children. The reason is the likelihood of children having significant detriment is very, very low." In October 2020, Kate Bingham said, "Only the at-risk will need to be vaccinated. This idea that all will need to be is misguided." That was the line then. And then suddenly, all governments around the world, including ours, went on this bonkers coercion and trying to force these vaccines on people that don't need it. Now, let's be clear, the science does not support jabbing kids, especially 6-month-olds and babies. I'm horrified that we're still talking about this, and I'm quite pleased that the British public have spoken the numbers that they have and haven't taken it up.
Dawn, you say this should be down to parents to decide, but you don't have a problem with it being offered to children.
Look, if you want to vaccinate your child against COVID, I don't see the problem with having the choice to do so, but it has to be...
The child doesn't have a choice if there's any...
The parent, I'm talking about the parent, I'm talking about a 6-month-old baby.
Yeah.
But
what about that 1 in 500 going to hospital?
Look, it's the parent's choice.
Yeah.
Provided they're not forced to do it, no one should be forced to have any vaccine.
You've got the Prime Minister saying it's totally safe. It's not totally safe.
Yeah, but we were talking about Matt Hancock earlier on. Matt Hancock promised that children wouldn't be having it. It's saying Matt Hancock promised to be faithful to his wife and throw a ring of steel around care homes. None of that was true. I don't believe a word any of them say. But the point is, right, if you as a parent want to have your child vaccinated against whatever, you have that right to do so with this. I'm not supporting it. I'm not supporting it. I'm saying it is down to parental choice.
I just worry that this actually does a disservice to...
But there's more studies that have shown inflammation of the heart. The Thailand study showed that teenagers, 1 in 6, had minor heart irregularities after the mRNA vaccine.
I imagine there are children who might be more at risk than others, so that's a choice for parents. Like with the chickenpox vaccine, it's not available on the NHS. I made a decision to give him the chickenpox vaccine.
Fascinating debate. Now, Mindy Karlin's beloved character on the US remake of The Office, customer service rep Callie Kapoor, once said, "Sometimes I get so bored I just want to scream, and then sometimes I actually do scream. I just sort of feel out what the situation calls for." Well, Callie, I have to tell you, this situation calls for a scream, because Carlene, who wrote and starred in the wildly successful show, it ran for 9 seasons, one of my favourite shows of all time, almost as good as the UK version, has had one of the saddest falls from grace, going from one of the funniest people in Hollywood to one of the wokest, culminating in an appearance on Meghan Markle's flop podcast back in September. So speaking on the stateside show Good Morning America, Carlene has actually tried to cancel the brilliant US office, which should be her proudest achievement. This is totally bizarre. Watch.
What do you think your character Kelly would be up to now, 10 years later?
I think she probably would have quit Dunder Mifflin to be an influencer, and then probably been canceled almost immediately.
Yeah.
Actually, most of the characters on that show probably would be canceled.
We were just talking about your kids a moment ago. At what point do you introduce them to the series? Still a little young, right?
I kind of think maybe never. That show is so
Really?
inappropriate. I mean, we always talk about the writers who I'm still in touch with now. We talk about how so much of that show we probably couldn't make now. Tastes have changed, and honestly, what offends people has changed so much now.
Oh, yes. So inappropriate and unpalatable to the modern generation that the sitcom consistently tops the charts as one of the most streamed shows ever, almost 10 years after it ended. And I have to say, with very good reason, it's funny.
The people here don't get trophies very often, like Meredith or Kevin. I mean, who's going to give Kevin an award? Dunkin' Donuts? I will have a chicken breast. Hold the chicken. Oh. Rich people love pizza. Poor people love pizza. White people love pizza. Black people love pizza. Do black people like pizza? Chillax, Pam. Stop Pam MSing.
It seems blindly ruining your own legacy is the latest lefty trend. Isn't that right, Richard Curtis? Ashley James, Adam Brooks, Dawn Neeson, do stand by because coming up, should Elon Musk hand over info on possible Twitter interference in the democratic process? We'll discuss his shock claims as I crown today's greatest Britain in Union jackass. But first, will Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Netflix misadventure end up destroying their reputation stateside? Former governor of Alaska and Republican vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin weighs in live straight after the break.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
It's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where the world's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. We've heard a lot about how Harry and Meghan's fantasy-fueled reality show will be received on this side of the Atlantic, but how will it and their bagging of an award named after Robert F. Kennedy for exposing unproven royal racism go down stateside? Well, I'm joined now by one of America's most outspoken and brilliant politicians, the former Republican vice presidential candidate and former governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin. Sarah, just before we get stuck into the Sussexes, let's take one last look at their Netflix trailer before the show's unleashed on the world in a matter of hours.
It's really hard to look back on it now and go, what on earth happened?
You hear that? That is the sound of hearts breaking all around the world. She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then everything changed. There's a hierarchy of the family. You know, there's leaking, but there's also planting of stories.
There was a war against Meghan to suit other people's agendas.
It's about hatred. It's about race. It's a dirty game.
Sarah Palin, great to have you. I mean, look, I've described this as an orgy of victimhood. How do you feel and how are Americans reacting to the Harry and Meghan show?
Oh, bless her heart, Meghan. I think she has mistaken Netflix for her own personal diary. I will never understand airing dirty laundry about family. You know, the skid marks are the family. It's a shame. I think what Meghan needs to learn is that why tell people your problems in this type of format? Because 50% of the people you tell, they don't care. And the other 50%, they're glad you have the problems. So she's not going to get a real sympathy vote. And Dan, I'm not into the whole so-and-so's privileged, so-and-so's not privileged. But she is privileged. She's very much privileged. And here for she to disrespect the Queen and family, the family structure even, and then be awarded for that by the Biden administration with that recent award. It's a shame. Here, the Queen being such an ally of the United States of America, for shame.
I know. And the Queen spent her life trying to break down racism. And it just feels the easy route, doesn't it, Governor Palin? When everything goes wrong and the British public turn on you, what do? Blame racism. But, you know, we are not an institutionally racist country. You know, the governor here commissioned a really wide-ranging report which proved that. But it's just the easy thing to go for, isn't it? Blame racism.
Yeah, and Harry is participating in that, and that is a shame too, to perpetuate that myth and that stereotype that maybe an entire culture and entire society is racist. That's not fair. And for those who are so woke, like Meghan, who is proud to be woke, for her to claim all this tolerance and all this acceptance of everybody. Unless you don't accept everything that she is saying, then heaven forbid you're considered an obstructionist, I guess, or an enemy of her. So I can't imagine that it's going to go real well. I think in this day and age, we all want to see positivity, and we all want to see real productive, energetic things that can lift up and enlighten when you're tuning into, especially something like Netflix. Our expectation is for something much better and more positive. I feel bad for the royal family.
Yeah, I do too. And you're so right. It's often the woke folk who do this whole be kind thing. They're actually the nasty ones if they don't agree with you politically. And speaking of politics, Governor Palin, Meghan apparently has ambitions to go all the way for the Republican Party, for the Democratic Party, sorry, to the White House. Do you think she could have a political career in America? And do you think this is what it's all about?
I think Meghan can have a political career in the Democrat Party because she's fitting right in to that agenda that is very intolerant. And, I'd like to believe that common sense, constitutional conservatives in America, the vast majority of Americans, they're better than that. And they won't accept it. But I think she's going to be accepted right on into that Democrat Party. But, as we're seeing so much of this wokeness, as your previous segment even alluded to, or was directly addressing, Dan, about the condemnation of the funniest show that we can watch today, The Office.
The Office.
And here it's Mindy and her character, she was so funny on that show. You should have ended that segment after she went on and on and on about how politically incorrect and unacceptable The Office is. You should have said, that's what she said.
I love it. I love it.
You must watch the show.
Oh, I do. I absolutely love it, actually. But this is what makes me so sad. She got rich and famous off the American Office. She wants it cancelled. Meghan Markle went from a two-bit D-list actress off the back of the British royal family, and now she wants to cancel that. This is what the woke do. They are a destructive force.
Well, and it's kind of funny. It really is. I think that they're not aware that people do laugh at their efforts in this arena. And, that I think bodes not real well for their discernment, because we don't take them seriously. And again, I still can't get over that last segment that anybody would say that about The Office. I mean, we need that. We need those episodes.
Let me tell you, The Office was one of the only things that got me through 2 years of lockdown. I just watched it and laughed, and I loved how politically incorrect it was. Look, Governor Palin, can I just ask you quickly before you go about the US political situation? We're absolutely fascinated about the machinations within the Republican Party at the moment. How are you feeling about Trump versus DeSantis?
I support Trump because he's the only one who takes on fake news. He's the only one who isn't owned by anybody. And I'm not saying that Governor DeSantis is, but Trump has a proven record now of having the guts, the cojones to take on whomever needs to be taken on and really affect positive change. His policies were right for the United States of America, and I think he needs to complete what it is that he started. I believe he has the support to do so.
Well, that is a big endorsement, of course, because many folk, including me, say that without Sarah Palin, there would be no Donald Trump president of the United States of America. So, look, Governor Palin, we'll keep speaking to you, of course, over the next couple of years before the election, but really great to have your view on Harry and Meghan tonight. Thank you so much. That was former Governor for Alaska, Vice Presidential candidate for the Republican Party, Sarah Palin. But it's time now to reveal tonight's Greatest Britain in Union Jackass. Dawn Neeson, your Union... no, actually, we'll do Greatest Britain first. Your Greatest Britain nominee.
Anti-Semitism campaigner Rob Rinder, who gave a great monologue on TV, a rival show, but a great monologue on TV this week about how it's appalling that Harry and Meghan have been recognised for anti-racism and all they've basically done is slag his family off.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, so let's have a little look, because I love Rob.
You can feel quite passionate about this, because the idea that I or anybody else here would accept a human rights award, given what's going on around our globe, strikes me as, to say the very least, and to use the language of that world, problematic.
Very good. Adam Brooks, your nominee.
My honorary Greatest Britain is Elon Musk for revealing that Twitter interfered with the 2020 US elections. He's also said there's plenty more bombshells to come.
And Ashley James, your nominee for Greatest Britain.
My Greatest Britain is the NHS striking... Well, the NHS strikers, just because I feel like they are the beating heart of our public service and we need to get behind them so we get more staff and a better duty of care.
OK, well, look, I'm going to go with Judge Rinder, great man.
Yay.
And actually, I thought that was an excellent take, Dawn, on the Harry and Meghan debacle. Union Jackass time now, Dawn.
Oh, talking of which, funny enough, it's going to be Harry and Meghan. I'm sorry.
I think we know why. Yeah. I think we know why. Adam Brooks, your Union Jackass.
Mine is Matt Hancock for masking children during the COVID pandemic and revealing that it was only because Nicola Sturgeon wrong-footed the government and decided to do so. It was unscientific and unforgivable.
That was so wrong. Ashley James, your Union Jackass.
Mine is Steve Barclay for having the audacity today to blame ambulance staff or paramedics for long waiting times when he knows that this has been going on well before this year.
Well, in fairness, they are the ones going on strike and potentially leaving heart attack patients languishing in their home. Just saying. But I'm going to go with Adam Brooks, Matt Hancock, tonight's Union Jackass. I'm not going to miss him in Parliament, I have to be totally honest with you. Dawn Neeson, Adam Brooks, Ashley James, fabulous superstar panel. Thank you so much for being here. I am, of course, back tomorrow night from 9 p.m. We're going to have a special edition of the show. Don't you worry. You don't have to watch this orgy of victimhood on Netflix. I'm going to do it for you, and we're going to have the best experts in the business, including Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bauer, to analyse. Next up, though, it's Headliners. Good night.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.